Hi friends, we'll discuss an important current affairs issue with respect to environment and ecology as a part of GS3, protecting the oceans. Protecting the oceans. Recently, that means 5 days back, we have celebrated World Ocean Day. World Ocean Day. So, with a different theme we have celebrated. I'll explain that theme. But what is the importance of ocean? What is the both ecosystem and economic services that ocean is providing to us? And what are the challenges that the oceans are facing? How it impacts our lives? And what type of decisions we need to take to contain that problem? And how the world is reacting to this problem, and what are the challenges in implementing that problems, those things we'll discuss in this video. So World Ocean Day, this year theme is, sometimes these themes are important, just have an idea, because sometimes you may get it in prelims or sometimes you will use it while you are writing the answer. Revitalization and collection action for revitalization and collective action for the ocean. Collective action for the ocean. So this theme is for this year, June 8th, World Ocean Day. This is a theme. Now first of all, I'll explain the functions of the ocean. Some people might have aware, but when you are writing the answer, you need to be so specific, you can't repeat the points. So the functions of the ocean, So the first one is the services that ocean offers to the people. It will regulate the climate. The first important aspect is it regulates the climate. And in geography, you can understand in climatology and oceanography how these oceans will certainly influence the climate of the whole globe. Why rain is happened somewhere, why there is a drought condition, and why there is a monsoon, why there is a retrieval of monsoon, why there is a westerly winds, why there is a retreatal of winds. So these are all depending on these oceans. So oceans regulate the climatic conditions across the globe in different regions, whether it is south or southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, eastern part of the globe, western part of the globe, in polar regions, everywhere. So it is the ocean that regulates the climate first. The second important function of these oceans is it produce at least 50% of oxygen what we breathe. Don't think like only forests and trees can only release that oxygen. Even the plants that are there inside the ocean, they also releases oxygen, and at least 50% of the oxygen, the planet's oxygen, that is coming from the ocean. Next, it supports, second one is over, next third function is it supports the humanity. It supports the humanity's sustenance and that of every other organism on earth. Maybe for food purposes, maybe for life purposes, maybe for livelihood purposes, maybe for providing food security, nutritional security, anything. And the whole entire climate is depending on the ocean. So for our sustainable livelihood or for our sustenance, definitely we need ocean, and ocean is playing a very vital role. So in supporting the humanity's sustenance and that of every organ, because it's almost regulating the climate, and we are all depending on climate. Next, when it comes to this, there is an estimation like lot of people are depending on these oceans, but 40 million people will get an employment on in ocean based industry by 2030. This is one estimate. Ocean based industry, 40 million people get an employment. And apart from that, tourism, international shipping lanes, because these are very, very important for economic activity, shipping lanes, economic activity, and tourism. And I have already told you about the food security. Food security comes under these fishes and other aquaculture related products, and even some medicines also we will get. And apart from that, huge resources are there in ocean, resources. So in one word, if at all I want to say, these oceans are a foundation for economy. Foundation for economy, because these oceans are reason for rains. When there is no rains, you cannot imagine an economy, especially an economy like India. When there is no, because ocean is regulating the climate, ocean is giving the food, ocean is helping in security, food security, ocean is giving lot of resources using as shipping lanes. So because of these reasons, oceans are foundation of economy, any economy. And without that you can't imagine. And if suddenly that oceans get damaged and oceans are unable to provide these type of resources, it is very difficult to achieve a sustainable growth in economy. So that is why oceans are very, very important. Okay. Once you understand the importance of these oceans in various aspects of the human life and as well as the development of any economy, then what are the challenges to this? Because we are discussing this topic because we are facing some challenges to these oceans. So what are the main challenges? When it comes to the challenges, I can attribute two things. Both are related to human activities, but one is with the direct action of human and second one is indirect action. It is direct and indirect. I can say it is completely direct human activities, it is indirect human activities. Sometimes we consider it as a natural, but it is not a natural. It is climate change. So climate change is because of only human activities. So climate change is one reason, the direct human activities are other reasons. These two things are posing lot of challenges to the oceans. So first one is, I have already told, like in both the cases human intervention is there. Because of climate change, the ocean temperatures are increasing. Ocean temperature is increasing. When ocean temperature increases, it adversely affects the flora and fauna that is there in the ocean, and some life forms cannot sustain that increased temperature. It will impact the changes in biological aspects of that animals and as well as the plants. So first one is that because of climate change. So temperature, the surface temperature of ocean is increasing. Next, ocean acidification. Ocean acidification. When CO2 is released into the atmosphere, oceans will also absorb some CO2. Oceans also absorb some CO2, and with that it will form carbonic acid. It will form carbonic acid. Though the carbonic acid is a weak acid, but it accumulates over a period of time, definitely it will reduce the pH level of the water. The ocean acidification does not mean that entire ocean water will become like an acid. No. Acid definition in the sense, if the pH value is between 0 and 7, it is acid. But even if your pH is 11 and if you are reducing 10, this process we call it as acidification. That means you are tend to become acid. That means you are moving in that direction. So the point is, the ocean acidification is another important aspect, and if that acidification increases, it will have a serious impact on the life forms because they cannot sustain. they cannot sustain. Because of these emissions, because of the CO2 emissions, and the CO2 emissions are happening because of the emissions that we are doing in the name of development, either through the industry or the vehicular emissions and other lot of emissions that are happening. Next, eutrophication. Eutrophication. So eutrophication, actually it's not possible to happen in a wider area, but in some parts of the ocean, when there is an excess concentration of nutrients happen, mostly in coastal area or in some oceans where they are surrounded with some land, definitely there is a chance for eutrophication. This eutrophication will have a severe impact on the life forms because it reduces the oxygen level. It reduces the oxygen level. Deoxidation. Deoxidation. So deoxidation, deoxygenation, you can call it as deoxygenation. Deoxygenation, eutrophication, acidification, temperature increase, and even sedimentation. Sedimentation. Sedimentation in the sense, what is the reason for sedimentation? The reason for sedimentation is, if you clear the forest, then whenever there is a huge rain, all that sediments will come and they will come into the river, and from that river they will enter into the ocean. When huge amount of sediments enter into the ocean, then it will have certainly impact on the water quality, and they will have some impact on the coastal ecosystem, and also it will have its own impact on this ocean different lives like corals. And when this temperature increases, it will have its own effect on corals. When acidification happen, it will have effect on the corals. Corals is one of the life forms that are present in the ocean along with other fish and marine life form. So these are some of the things, and polar ice cover is gradually melting, and it increases the ocean level, and that will have its own serious impact on the coastal farms. And at the same time, that addition of more and more amount of fresh water to the ocean, we don't know how it will impact the life forms of the marine organisms, because it is under research. We don't know exactly how it will going to impact, but anyhow it will have certainly impact on these coastal farms. So these are some of the challenges that the oceans are facing, which are human induced, but they are not direct human intervention. I will come with this direct human intervention now. The direct human intervention means polluting the oceans. Polluting oceans. Polluting ocean. Polluting in the sense, there is a solid waste pollution, there is a gaseous pollution, there is a liquid pollution. And gas I have already explained, that lead to the ocean acidification. Solid in the sense, mostly this plastic that include plastic litter and as well as the microplastic. Microplastic is becoming so danger. Okay. Next, liquid. When it comes to the liquid, it is an industrial wastage or sewerage, whatever you are releasing directly into the ocean. So this will have its own impact. So this one major aspect, pollution. Second one is, and this plastic is choking the oceans. Okay, it is creating a lot of problem to the life forms in the ocean. Second one is, when this oil spills is also one of the reason that comes under liquid pollution, but still I am making it as a separate, because whenever this oil spills happen, then it will have its own impact, and because it will stop the oxygen to enter in the water, and that itself creates some sort of breathing problem to the animal form, and that may lead to death of some animals inside the ocean. Next, overfishing. Overfishing is another important reason, and there is a term to decide to connote this overfishing, it is something called IUU, illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing. Illegal, unregulated, unreporting fishing. And this illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing only happens in an international waters or in a multilateral waters. That means if waters are belong only to me, definitely I will control it. But if water is belongs to either you and me or it is belongs to all, then definitely some people want to exploit more from it. That more exploitation of fish will itself create lot of problem to the ocean, because you are not only exploiting the fishes, but you are also exploiting the other life forms in the ocean, because the way you are trying to catch the fish, it is the bottom trawling techniques, bottom trawling. So in this bottom trawling, you are completely washing away the surface of the sea, because your nets are so big and they can catch huge amount of fish at a time. So they are environmentally very dangerous and they are degrading the entire coast, the entire marine ecosystem. It's not only bringing an imbalance in the life forms, not only bringing the imbalance in fish, but it is also bringing the imbalance in the overall ecosystem inside the ocean. Okay? So this overfishing, this illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing is one important aspect. The another important reason which directly you can attribute to the human being is the land management and agricultural practices and even your animal husbandry related aspects. That means when you are using your land, you are completely removing the forest, you are completely removing the green cover, you are completely occupying the wetlands, and you are bringing everything into the ocean. And when you are using excessive fertilizers, pesticides, they are all entering into the ocean. So that means these are also a reason. So the agricultural practices, animal husbandry practice, land management, overfishing, oil spills, polluting by using the plastics that include both litter plastic and microplastic and liquids. So these are all you can directly attribute it to the human intervention. The other thing is also because of human. Nothing is natural, because we are trying to tamper with the nature. So that is the reason why we are facing lot of problems, and these are the challenges to the health of the ocean. These are the challenges to the health of the ocean. And if it continues like this, that means the tendency, whatever the challenges that I mentioned, these challenges are there, and if you continue these challenges in a similar way, then what will happen is 90% of the big fish population already depleted, 50% of the coral life forms have already destroyed, and if you continue the same thing, it will erode it completely. These are only big fish and this is corals. And there is some estimate by 2100, if your practices continued at the same rate, more than 50% of the marine diversity will become extinct. More than 50% of the marine diversity will be extinct. And if you increase the carbon emissions in a same rate what you are doing now, then ocean corrodes the shell of many marine organisms. So this corrosion happens. Why this corrosion happens? Corrosion happens because your ocean is becoming acidic. When your ocean is becoming acidic, then what will happen? That hydrogen ions, whatever they are there, these hydrogen ions can easily bond with the carbonate ions. So normally the ocean life forms, they wanted to join with calcium. If calcium plus carbonate, if they join, then you will get calcium carbonate, that will become as a shell to any animal. But when there is an acidification, when there is a free hydrogen in the water, this hydrogen is having more tendency to join with the carbonate. So, the carbonate ion, instead of joining with the calcium, it joins with the hydrogen, then it becomes an acid, and that will completely taken away the shell. So, the shell formation is not possible because the calcium ion having less tendency to join with the carbonate ion. So, this is something, this is a technical aspect, it may not be required, but just have an idea like this. Ocean will corrode, ocean will lead to the corrosion of the shells of many marine animals. So, these are the dangers that you are going to face. Then if this danger we are predicting, then what the international organizations, are they doing anything? Just I will give 3 measures. First one is United Nations. United Nations declared the decade 2021 to 2030, decade 2021 to 2030 as a decade of ocean science, a decade of ocean science. So, 2021-2030 is a UN decade of ocean science. Next, this month, that means at the end of June, at the Lisbon, Portugal, United Nations Ocean Conference is happening. United Nations Ocean Conference. Maybe we will discuss different issues associated with this oceans, the challenges that the ocean is facing. Another is Food and Agricultural Organization. They have already mentioned about this fishing and aquaculture activities. They said you should do in a more sustainable way. So, more sustainable way of fishing and aquaculture is necessary. So, these are the some 3 major initiatives taken by the world organizations. And when it comes to the India, India is also taken up some missions. So, deep ocean mission with respect to this protecting ocean health, and also to understand exactly the causes for this ocean acidification or the challenges that the oceans are facing. So, deep ocean mission, first one at the India level, Second one is blue coastal mission. Third one is marine fishing policy. So, in every aspect we are so careful about protecting the ocean, and we are so careful in our practices which are sustainable in nature. To make the practices sustainable, we are putting lot of attention on those items. Okay, deep ocean mission, coastal mission, marine fishing policy, and blue economy policy. So, these are the 4 aspects taken by the government of India, and apart from the specific action on protecting the ocean and on this emission front, we have already taken lot of decisions. We have even provided lot of commitments both at the Paris and as well as at Glasgow, and we wanted to be net zero, we wanted to increase our renewable energy, we wanted to create a carbon sink, we wanted to increase our renewable energy. So, these are all we are promoting, but apart from that, these are the 4 specific measures as far as protecting the oceans is concerned. Okay, United Nations level, that means the organizations at the world level, and India is taking some steps. But what are the specific steps that we must take, and how we can really address this challenge of oceans? So, I list out some of the measures so that you can quote these measures appropriately. Measures. Though we are taken up some measures, but still you need to be very careful whenever you are taking these, whenever you are writing these measures. The first important is what to do now. So, what to do is, see, the most agreed solution is, even if you understand the United Nations theme for the decade, it is a decade of ocean science. First of all, you must understand the science. If you don't understand the science behind this ocean and the changes that are happening in the ocean, you cannot take any step. Because some people in this country, maybe because of their own self interest, they don't believe that the climate is changing. They don't believe. So the point, the very important point is understanding the science. Science behind all these changes, science behind the changes that are happening in the ocean. Once you understand that science and share that science and knowledge with all the stakeholders, and if you find any definite scientific solution, share with somebody, cooperate with each other, collaborate with each other, the different stakeholders like different organizations, different countries, different sectors, so that cooperation, coordination, sharing of knowledge, sharing of better practices, understanding of science is a very, very important aspect in the measures, first of all. Okay? Second, and once you understand that science, then you can understand what are all the reasons that I have explained, because those reasons are scientifically identified. How come emission of CO2 will affect? How come of sedimentation effect? How come the plastic will affect? How come the fertilizers, pesticides used in the agricultural field will affect? So that means you must understand the science. What are all the reasons? Sometimes you may say it as a natural. Is it really natural? Is it really natural, or is there any human activity behind that? And if yes, you need to understand that science and you need to find a solution, you need to share, and whenever you are implementing, you must collaborate. You must collaborate with each other. So that means, so that understanding of science with respect to the changing ocean climate is very, very important. Once you understand this, you can reduce all the challenges that I have faced, that I have explained earlier. Next, identify the most vulnerable areas. Identify most vulnerable areas, because on globe 70% is covered with the oceans. 70% is covered with the ocean. That means you can't protect all the ocean at a time. But wherever there is a possibility of more vulnerability, just identify those locations. We are having protected areas, we are having biosphere reserves. Likewise, you need to, and in oceans also we are having some reserves and some countries are protecting it. But identify more vulnerable areas and demarcate it. Demarcate in the sense, just identify some area, and that area, if you think it is vulnerable, just announce it as a protected area. Once you announce it as a protected area, and you must reduce this destructing activity in this region. Either it can be a fishing, either it can be a mineral exploration, or it can be anything. So just identify the targeted areas or more vulnerable areas and declare it as a protected one, and so that you can reduce some environmentally degraded activities in that zone, so that we can improve the health of the oceans. Next, another important measure that you need to take is the global governance, because it's not a one country, it's not belong to one country, because oceans don't have the border. Oceans don't have the border physically. You may have exclusive economic zone, that doesn't mean that it is completely belongs to you. Some other countries are also having some rights, and there is no specific boundaries, and it belongs to everyone, and we can call it as it's a global common. The oceans are global commons, it belongs to everyone, and even if it happens somewhere, it will have an impact on some other country. And today we are still finding we are devising some methodologies or some sort of techniques which decides the Indian monsoon. And now today we came to know that how Indian Ocean, how Pacific Ocean, how Atlantic Ocean, how even polar regions, they are influencing our monsoon. So that means oceans are global common, and they can certainly influence the climate of the globe. So you cannot alone deal this issue. That collaboration is very, very important, and for that the global governance structure. We are not under one roof. There is no common president for us. That is why this governance structure has become so complex and difficult. You must simplify it as far as this protecting oceans are concerned, and you must consider it as a global common. So this global governance structure, yes, this is a one more problem. We need to address this. All the countries must come together, and even intersection of the multiple global conventions. We have signed lot of conventions with respect to different aspects. With respect to pollution, we have a convention to protect the wildlife, we have a convention to protect the marine life, we have a convention to protect the wetlands, we have a convention to reduce the greenhouse gas, we have a convention to reduce the gas that will affect the ozone, the ozone convention. Like, we are having different type of conventions. So that conventions must fuse somewhere to give concrete result, especially when it comes to the oceans. So understanding the science, sharing the knowledge, collaborating with each other, sharing experiences, identify the most vulnerable areas and declare them as protected, and global governance structure, and as well as this intersection of multiple global conventions. And the another important thing is, we need to be very careful in understanding this. Whatever we are doing on land will certainly have an impact on ocean, and whatever is happening on mountains will also have certain impact on ocean. These practices must be changed on both land and mountain. It can be related to anything. It can be development, it can be emissions, it can be about forest, it can be related to plantation, it can be related to wetlands, it can be anything. But the land pattern and the land use pattern and mountain use pattern, this is very, very important, because that will affect the oceans. Next, the marine spatial planning. Marine spatial planning. That means, how can you protect this marine? So spatially you need to have a diverse plans. You cannot apply the single plan for entire marine, and to that extent not all the areas of marine are so vulnerable. Okay. Next, the another important thing is political leadership and will. This is very, very important. Political leadership and will to solve that issue. Because you must understand the importance of this ocean, and you must understand how it is going to impact the people, lives and livelihoods of humanity. So once you understand, definitely you need to have a strong political will, and even if you have political will, that is not sufficient. You must have a proper enforcement. So whatever the decision that you are taking, you must be in a position to enforce it, and for that you need even proper funding. So this is a very major problem. The political will, enforcement, funding. These are the very three major problems. Governance structure, of course, is also a problem. But political will, enforcing the decision taken, and the funding pattern, these are the major three challenges we must understand. So these are the measures that you can take in order to save the oceans. So at the end I can say, like, oceans are very, very important. We are using the oceans, and we must also protect the ocean. So you need to bring a balance between the usage of ocean and protecting of ocean, replenishing of ocean. That is very, very important. This is what we call sustainable use. sustainable use. You must use the resources, you must use it for your own development, but you must make sure that it should be sustainable. Either it can be fishing, either it can be any mineral exploration, or either it can be any other exploration from the oceans, or even if it is related to releasing some of the emissions into the ocean. You must make sure that the practice must be sustainable. So the use of oceans and the protecting of ocean must have a balance, and for that we need to take proper step, and with this step we need to restore the ocean health. We need to restore the ocean health. And second one is we need to repair the ocean ecosystem. We need to repair the ocean ecosystem. And third one is we must return to this sustainable use of oceans and seas. So restore, repair, return. This is very, very important, and that balance you must bring in using the resources and as well as the protecting the resources. Understand the science behind this, and just remember the theme and as well as the decade and also the summit that is going to happen at the end of this month, and there are some deliberations that are going to happen. Definitely you will get some points from that. They may agreed on some issues, but the most challenging issues with respect to governance and as well as political will and as well as enforcement and funding pattern. So this is very, very important. So it is about ocean protection and the functions and services of the ocean and the challenges that the oceans are facing, international organizations what they are committing, and what the thing we need to do, and what are the limited specific steps with respect to the ocean protection by the government of India. Okay, thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.